dividing a colony, a good time to divide a colony is when the bees, you take your cue from the bees. So when the bees are going to swarm, when they're crowded and they want to swarm, that's a good time to just go ahead and do it for them on your terms, not on their terms, so they don't leave and you miss it. You keep an eye on them, and when they're getting ready to go, you move forward instead of them flying off. So to do that, you could crowd them on purpose if you wanted to. Delay putting that third box on, they're going to start building cells like you saw these queen cells, and when they're to the point where they've just capped them over, that'd be a good time to make your split. So when you make a split, we don't want to just take the top box, put a bottom board on this, turn this into a hive body now, and a lid on the other one, and move this 3 miles. Because in the top box typically we're going to have more honey than pollen. The bottom box over the winter will have more pollen than honey. The drone bees will be hanging out in the bottom box, more so than the top box. All right, we'll have more brood in the top box than we will in the bottom box. So what we want to do is we need to have, when you're going to make a divide, just like we have nukes, these are hive nucleuses, all the elements that you need to begin a colony are there. There's eggs, there's larvae, there's pupa, sealed over brood, there's pollen, there's honey, there's capped over honey, there's open cells of honey, there's drawn comb. So we need those elements, and we also need all the different ages of bees. We need nurse bees, we need house bees, we need foraging bees. We need some drones. The queen prefers not to mate with her own drones, but it'd still be a good idea to have some. We need frames of pollen. Okay, so to do that, what I'm going to have to do is I'll take this box, and in the bottom box is where I'll probably find most of the pollen. Take a frame or two of pollen out there with the bees on it. All right, I'm going to trade this. Up here, we're going to have more brood because that's where the queen's laying. Take a couple frames of brood. If there's 4, 5, 6 frames of brood in there, take half of those out, put them down here. Okay, so now we've got, now if we had frames of brood, what age of bees would we find on a frame of brood? Open brood larvae. Back to the life cycle of the bees. So when a bee hatches out, when a bee emerges, a worker bee emerges, she's going to be first in charge of nurse bees, the nursery, feeding the baby bees. So we've got young bees. So if we have a frame with brood on it, I can guess mostly the age of the bees that are on that frame. So don't shake the bees off. Leave all the bees on that frame of brood, move it in. So we've equaled those splits. Right? So if we have a frame of honey on, it's a frame of honey, and they're just sealing over that honey. There's new honey and capped over, and they're working on what age of worker bees would there be on that? After about 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks of old, then they're foraging. So we know we've got foraging bees. So we need foraging bees because the foragers are going to bring in water, they're going to bring in pollen, they're going to bring in propolis, they're going to bring in nectar. We need those bees on our split. If we didn't have foraging bees, what would happen in the split if we left all the foragers in one box and none in the other? So that would force, we'd have a problem like they have with colony collapse. So the older bees, the foraging bees aren't coming back to the colony, so there's nothing coming into the colony, so you have younger bees that are forced to go to work too early. They haven't finished their duties in the hive, they're not mature enough yet to go out working. But if there's no foraging bees bringing anything in, you got to send the workforce out when they're too young. That's going to cause problems. Then they don't do well, they don't come back. So we need foraging bees, bringing in all the different elements, and we need house bees too. So, all right, after having said all that, what would happen if I took a hive in the spring, let's say it's end of March, April, and it's pretty full. We got 20 colonies of bees there. The queen mostly filled up that top box, and so she did move down to the bottom, so there's some eggs down there. So what if I didn't do all that? What if I just took this and I threw a bottom board on there and a lid on this and moved this 3 miles away? Would I be causing troubles, or would it turn out all right?
Probably have some problems.
It probably still would. So, but you've got to look in there. Once you got to get in your bottom box and know what's going on, right? You don't just look in the top box and think, oh, it looks good, and there's plenty of bees in the bottom. Maybe we're okay and do it. So I'm giving you the what the book says to do, and then what the reality of it is. Sometimes it'll probably still work okay. So the most important thing though when you're making a split is if you have 2 boxes clear full of bees and you're going to divide that, we're not going to look for the queen like we did today. 5 frames of bees, it's pretty easy to find the queen. 20 frames crowded in there, you're not going to find it. So we're going to find eggs. Because we don't know which box the queen is in, we're going to make sure that as we divide up those frames, we have some with, both boxes have some with eggs. And then we're going to be okay. Then the bees will make a new one. Now if you're going to order a new queen, you're just going to go buy a new queen and put her in. You won't even have to do that. You could just come back how many days later to see which box the queen is in?
3.
You're getting it, yep. 3 days later we'll know, oh, okay, well the queen's in the other box that I left, and there's no queen in this one because there's no eggs. So I'll take my new queen that I ordered, put her in there. You just save yourself a month worth of time by putting a mated queen in that you put. Requeening can be tricky sometimes. You want to requeen when it's good weather, when there's honey flow on, when it seems like you get the most success requeening when there's a nectar flow coming in. Those bees, the older working bees that are set on that old queen have got their mind on something else. They're busy bringing in nectar. The hive's doing their routine. They're not just in there because of bad weather getting mad at everything that happens. So they might not like that new queen. So one of the best things you can do when you're requeening is make sure there's a nectar flow. You can't always do that. I mean, you're gonna order a queen bee, and the queen breeder's gonna send it to you when they can, and hopefully it's good weather. Hopefully there's a nectar flow on it.